Welcome everyone to, I guess, what I'm going to call video 2 of the patch 5.10 speculation, I guess, of the characters that we have seen in the photos. We're going to take a look at that, but this one here is going to be dealing with what I believe is to be the Midnight Suns. So this is going to be dealing with specifically characters 3 and 4 in the portrait, and what this might mean for these characters. A lot of the potentially reworked characters from this grouping are stemming from the Supernatural team. So I want to discuss that, the characters that I think will be left in and the characters that will be kicked out, and why. You may have, if you watched the first video, which is related to the West Coast Avengers, I think you might have seen my speculation on why one of them was moved out, and I don't know if I mentioned in that other characters, but that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, where the Midnight Suns will be used, who is going to be part of this group, and why we should potentially be excited for this, or not. So all that and more in today's video. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Okay, and so, oh, not the mutant tag, my bad, that was from earlier on. Okay, so here we have the entire roster. So you might have recognized this part of the screen because I had this exactly at the startup of the first video when we talked about the West Coast Avengers. You know what? I guess I can like untag these now because we've already talked about them, and I will get rid of them. But I'll leave Scarlet Witch there because we do want to have a little bit of a conversation on those characters here. But these are the main ones. And first off, just like in the first video, I'm going to bring back up the photo for those of you who maybe didn't see the other video. So we'll be talking about this one here, and this is going to be characters 3 and 4. Now, we're not talking about characters 1 and 2 in this video. If you want to go check that out, do check out my previous video talking about the West Coast Avengers. This is part 2, where we'll be talking about the Midnight Suns. Now, there has been some speculation or some other suggestions for number 3 and number 4. And honestly, if you watch my first video on the matter when these first came out, I said that I thought that maybe this might have been Monica Rambeau. I was kind of just like reading off of what other comments were saying. But now that I had more time to think about it, I had some conversations with other content creators as well, I think that I'm settling on a Midnight Suns team. And for this, I'm settling on Doctor or Brother Voodoo. Depends on which version that we're getting or the nameplate that we're getting. Dr. Voodoo is, I think, because he took over the title of Sorcerer Supreme, and he also has the Cloak of Levitation, which is red, you know, the Doctor Strange cape that you've seen. He also has this as his part of his equipment as well, and so that might be a reason why you might see a red background, because it's a red cloak. Other than that, he also does have sort of you know, I don't want to be insensitive here, or you know, it's to me it's like Afro-ish hair. Please correct me here. I'm not so I'm not culturally insensitive here, but anyways, the hair looks like it would be. It is appropriate as well for February and Black History Month as well. So I think that this is very, and not because I think Monica is as well. So, but I think in this instance, I think we're probably getting Voodoo or Brother Voodoo, Dr. Voodoo, whichever name you want to call him. I think that's what it's going to be, and that leads us to number 4. And there were some suggestions. I think people who were just still hoping that this was going to be Excalibur. Some people were like, well, maybe this is still Angel or Archangel. And these things here are actually just like the wings inverted or something, or curved up. And, you know, these are the edges of the wing. I honestly think they're grasping at straws. If you look at the way that the hair is parted, honestly, this really just screams Morbius to me personally. This kind of has like a little vampire cloak-esque. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not super big in Morbius. Like, I don't know everything there is to know about Morbius, but this seems pretty plausible to me, I think, and this would be, you know, it would make sense to the association of the Midnight Suns more broadly, because he was a former leader of that team, and that's something that we'll be talking about later. So we're going to be running on the assumption, at least for now, and the reason why I'm doing this video now before Friday is I want to see if I'm right. I want to see if this is accurate, and if this is what we might be seeing on Friday, possibly with the blog post, possibly with a Strike Time video. So I wanted to get this out ahead of that to see if these predictions are accurate as well. I'm not sure, would you call it a prediction at this point? You know, because we do have I guess it still is, because it's not officially confirmed. But anyways, I'm going with Brother Dr. Voodoo, whatever you want to call him, or which name you want to give him, and Morbius as a potential legendary character still for the Midnight Suns. And we're going to be talking about this more broadly. So let's bring up, though, first off, Dr. Voodoo. This is what he goes by now in the comics because he has taken over as Sorcerer Supreme instead of Doctor Strange. Actually, also Doctor Strange is kind of dead in the comics right now, actually. Or at least there's a comic series running right now called Death of Doctor Strange. But before that, he was named Brother Voodoo before he took on that mantle. He's had a lot of affiliations through his character. I'm also not an expert on this guy, but I did give a little bit of a reading beforehand. And then he's also really big in Strange Academy, so that's another thing. I'm reading that comic right now, too, so I've been seeing him more and more there. So he is, I think, the second headmaster, I guess, of Strange Academy, being the Sorcerer Supreme, but he has that affiliations with the Midnight Suns. He's had quite a bit of former affiliations with the Avengers as well, so he has lots of partnerships there. Really great character, and so I'm glad that if this is the character that's coming to the game, that should be awesome. And so Midnight Suns is specifically what I want to focus on here with relations to that. But if you look at some of his other photos, and this is why I think with the red, I want to scroll down. I forgot how far. Here you can see the cloak of levitation that he's wielding here in this photo, and so that's the usual Doctor Strange cloak, but he has it here too. And so that's why I think, at least as far as the photo goes, that I think that the red part, that's where we want to see that. And I think that makes sense there, because he does kind of have some red. Most of his other costume is kind of black and white, but that red cloak really stands out. So I think that might be part of his appearance possibly in Marvel Strike Force, and that's why they're giving him a red background. And I don't know how many other photos there are down here really of him. You still see this kind of red cloak of levitation, you know, the new Sorcerer Supreme, so he does have that. So this could be the version that we might be seeing in Marvel Strike Force because of this appearance. That I think that seems very likely. Now, I guess that means, and we're going to talk about this, that Doctor Strange probably is still going to be on this team, meaning that we're going to have 2 cloaks of levitation on this team, but hey, it doesn't really matter too much because, you know, Marvel Strike Force does what they want. Secondly, Michael Morbius. I should have had the top. Why was I scrolled down? We're going to talk about that. So Michael Morbius. Now, I'll be honest. I don't know why we have this background here. It's for blue. This, to me, screams Morbius the silhouette. The blue background, I'm not really sure what they're going for. Normally, they go for a costume-based appearance. If we look at some of the other characters above, you know, Magic gets a yellow. That kind of is an homage to the hair, I guess, here. But pink for Ghost Spider, or purple, or whichever color, pink, purple, fuchsia, I don't know. I'm bad with the color wheel. You know, this is pretty obvious for Ghost Spider. We have blue for Scarlet Spider's hoodie here. We have Spider-Punk that's red for his costume. And then we have purple with T'Challa, which is also based on his coat. So for that reason, I think that either it's based on their costume or it's based on their hair. So in this case, from what I see of Morbius, not necessarily in this photo here, but if you scroll down and you look at some of his other photos, that I believe that's why I was down there in the first place. Once we scroll, it's maybe kind of loose, but it feels that maybe his hair is kind of blackish blue. It feels like it's black, but it has like a blue tint. And maybe that's kind of why we're getting a blue background in this case. This is probably the only thread I can make about that. I mean, he doesn't really wear anything that's largely blue. For that, you know, maybe that's why some people are still thinking it could be Angel or Archangel, because, you know, I think Archangel kind of looks dark bluish, you know, with that weird color from the 90s cartoon, I think. But I really don't think that's going to be the case. I can't make a lot of connections to this blue color with Morbius, so I'll admit that one is a bit of a stretch. I'm going with the hair. I'm going with the hair for this one. I think that maybe we might be seeing more of like a black-blue hairstyle, and that's what's going on there. So that's what I'm going with, and that's what we're going to stick with. As far as the Midnight Suns team goes, though, I'm really excited if this is the case, because it is a really cool team with a lot of existing characters that we could see, that we have in the game now, and maybe that the team might actually get extended in the future with characters like Blade that we want. There's a movie coming for Blade in the future, and I think that there is options here if they want to, you know, expand this team a little bit or do an offshoot potentially as well. But there's a lot of good characters here that a lot of us wanted to see. Now, I was kind of expecting them to wait, you know, because the Morbius movie did get pushed back a bit. And also that it would have seemed more appropriate around like a Halloween time, because when Ghost Rider and Elsa Bloodstone first came out, they came out in Halloween 2019, I think it was around that time. 2020 Halloween we had Anti-Venom and Scream and that stuff, and then 2021 we had Lady Deathstrike, I think, something like that. So I kind of would have expected this to be more around thematically around the fall, around the Halloween time, but hey, you know, if we're getting it early, you know, I think a lot of people who are big fans of Morbius will be excited for this anyways. And so that brings me back to the roster page. So let's talk about this team more broadly, minus Dormammu. He's not here for that reason of the team. But, you know, for these are the characters that will be part of that team, very likely, and they will be most likely, if you watch my first video on the West Coast Avengers, then the biggest thing about this is that older characters likely will see a base stat rework, and they will probably also see some kit rework as a part of that as well, which I think will be really nice too. So first off, I want to talk about very briefly about Scarlet Witch. So this was talked about in my West Coast Avengers video, and the reason why I left her up here is because she is a member of the Supernatural team. So I don't think that she is going to be part of this team, and for that reason, I don't think Mordo will be part of it either. So if there's two new characters, two people need to get the boot. Scarlet Witch probably gets the boot for the West Coast Avengers, which I think is going to be coming. Agree or disagree on West Coast Avengers, you know, I think that this boot is very likely, and especially to go alongside Vision anyways. For the other one, I think it's going to be Mordo, because we do know that Doctor Strange is going to be coming, a character, Evil Strange, What If Doctor Strange, whatever you want to call him, is coming later on this year. This was confirmed by Scopely in a previous blog post, because we knew that the costume for Doctor Strange wasn't coming, and they confirmed to us that it was going to be a brand new character. So I kind of see that if Mordo gets the boot here, that means it's going to be leading us up to, I don't know, some sort of sorcerer's team, like a more of a magic-based evil sorcerer's team. Perhaps we might see Agatha Harkness at a later point. Some people were suggesting in that photo that it might have been Agatha, but now that I thought about it more, I think it's too early for that, because Agatha's getting a spin-off show as well, from what I understand. So maybe at a later time, perhaps, you know, there might be a What If Evil Strange team, or a What If team, perhaps, and then later down the line we bring out Agatha, and that goes in with Mordo, and then we get some sort of evil sorcerer's team. I don't know, you know, something like that. I think that's very likely. Mordo just gets benched, just like some of the other characters for other teams. Jessica Jones is a good example of a character that got benched and still isn't doing anything. So, you know, it's perfectly okay to bench people that aren't going to be used, because it's happened before. But the characters that likely will be staying on this team: Elsa Bloodstone, Doctor Strange, and Ghost Rider. Doctor Strange was a founding member and leader of the Midnight Suns. Also, Morbius was a former leader of the Midnight Suns as well. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Ghost Rider's been on that team. Elsa's been on that team. There's a lot, unlike the West Coast Avengers video, there's actually a lot of direct affiliation with these characters with that team, and that's what kind of excites me as well, is that they're, for the most part, and I think possibly 100% actually, they're holding true to the comic lore. I don't know as much about the Midnight Suns as probably some other people do, or even I think my partner might even know more than I do about the Midnight Suns, but you know, the fact remains is that it feels a lot more lore thematic than other teams that Marvel Strike Force has done in the past, and so that excites me. As far as the characters go, though, Ghost Rider was kind of seen as the de facto supernatural team leader. He had a lot of that stuff on the passive. So on his death, grant 2 ability energy to all supernatural allies. Now, I could see this extended either to supernatural and Midnight Suns. I think they could just easily just drop a Midnight Suns tag on a lot of the stuff that says supernatural, and it would be okay. They might need to add a little bit more, maybe, you know, to make characters more relevant, especially on maybe Elsa and Doctor Strange's kit more than Ghost Rider, because I think Ghost Rider does have the better kit out of all of them. And then we know that Ghost Rider has this shotgun bat mechanic. You know, anytime an ally dies, you know, he baps them in the face for a ton of damage, and he gets charged, which he then uses to do his ultimate, Spirit of Vengeance, and he generates ability energy for himself whenever someone dies as well. Quite significantly, actually, like 3 ability energy. I do like the speed bar mechanic. I would love to see this kept in the Midnight Suns team, because this is actually really good. Speed bar by self and all supernatural, or in this case, hopefully Midnight Suns allies, by 3%. This could be really good. I would really hope that they kind of do a lot of what Supernatural was meant to do, but much more, you know, with more up-to-date kits, better stats, and all this. This is actually a really good passive. 40% max health for supernatural allies. If this gets extended to Midnight Suns, it doesn't actually need anything here. And then 30% focus for mystic allies. This is also pretty good. So yeah, he does have a very good passive, and I don't see this needing to be reworked. I'm not sure how much of Ghost Rider actually needs to be reworked. I think that we might need to see a bit of a base stat bump, because even with that 40% health passive, it's still not great compared to a lot of characters now that have been reworked. We talked about recent character reworks such as Wolverine, such as Sabretooth, Miles, OG Spider-Man. All these characters had really great character reworks that I think really bumped their stats and brought them up to kind of current character standards. So I think we would probably also need to see that with Ghost Rider. But that makes it crazy, right? Because, you know, some really high-powered Ghost Riders can do some pretty crazy damage with the passive, shooting people in the face when they die. So I can only imagine, like, how powerful Ghost Rider could be if he sees a base stat increase in his damage. Like, this could be quite significant. So I'm really excited to see increases in Ghost Rider. I do have a 5 red Ghost Rider, which is great. So as far as, you know, red stars go for this team, I'm actually doing really well. Scarlet Witch aside, because, you know, that's not going to be Midnight Suns, I have a 5 red for Doctor Strange and a 4 red for Elsa that I could easily bump up to 5 red. The problem with Elsa is that she never really hit the mark on her team. She's pure damage. I wouldn't say she necessarily does it particularly well either. I'm not sure what needs to be done with her kit. Of course, everyone needs a base stat rework across the board. But as far as improvements to her kit, I'm not sure what to suggest at this point. You know, I'm not a kit theory crafter, but it just doesn't feel enough. Now, we know because we run into Elsa Bloodstone quite a bit, whether it's in Doom Raid or in Dark Dimension. You know, she's got this passive where, you know, if their characters miss, or is it... Yeah, if their characters miss, or you dodge or whatever, then she follows up with an attack. This gets really annoying in high-end content, but it's just like when you're using the character yourself, it never feels really as good as when the AI uses these characters, right? And that's the case for a lot of things in Marvel Strike Force, that the enemies feel a lot better than your own characters. But she has an okay kit. I think the passive would probably need to be bumped. I think this crit chance would probably need to get extended to the wider Midnight Suns team. 10% doesn't feel like a lot. I think this would need to get bumped up as well. I don't know, like 20% would feel like a little bit better. Accuracy could also get extended as well. So that would be quite nice to make sure that they don't miss. And, you know, they're not affected by those dodge rates that certain characters have. So this would be quite handy as well. As far as... And once again, she's just pure damage. A lot of her stuff, she gains offense up. She does damage to adjacent targets. It's not even AoE. It's just like... for a 6-turn cooldown, it seems really weak. So I think that this would need to be changed or reworked a little bit. Maybe less energy or just more ways to fuel her ability energy, I think, would help. Her trick shot special, it's okay, but it's nothing super stellar. It just does damage. There's nothing really particularly OP about it, you know, for being just a damage skill. So I think that Elsa actually needs quite a bit of work. More than some of the other characters. And once again, her basic is also just a bonus. It is piercing, but I don't think the numbers are particularly high anymore. So I think Elsa does need a lot of work to be on that team to make her a lot better. I'm not going to make any suggestions, but either the numbers need to be higher or she needs to do more things. She needs to do more buffs, or something, you know? Something. Let me know in the comments down below what you think they could make adjustments for Elsa, because I think she needs the most amount of rework in terms of her kit. Now for Doctor Strange, we know he does some pretty interesting stuff. His basic Bolt of Balthak is unavoidable. It lands offense down. Winds of Watum, we all know that, right? It flips all of the positive status effects to negatives, or if it doesn't flip, it clears. Pretty handy too. Book of Ashanti, he can revive. And actually, as far as the Supernatural team went, if you got the T-Force for this, you could revive 2 characters. So this is what I want to lead into, because I could see this character being really useful, and this team being useful in an Alliance War defense capacity. I know this thought might scare the shit out of people, especially since we just got a War offense legendary, but I could see... Now, it could just be a War legendary in the form of Morbius. I'm not here to talk about necessarily the kits about Dr. Voodoo or Brother Voodoo and Morbius. That's not what this video is about, but this is more about what I think, based on the characters that we do have, what kind of potential we could see with this team. And I could see this being a really effing annoying War defense team with the kits from Brother or Dr. Voodoo and Morbius, and we have like a new Heroes for Hire. Not quite a Heroes for Hire, with probably a different mechanic, but the fact that Doctor Strange can revive 2 allies, this is quite something. You know, if you don't kill Doctor Strange in battle, there's a very good chance that he's going to revive some other members. Now, I could see this being extended to Midnight Suns, so it's just simply that he revives 2 Midnight Sun members, you know, with the T4. And the problem with this ability, though, is it's on a super long cooldown. But even at the start, you have to... this is like a turn 4 ability or something, which usually most battles don't last that long. There are other ways for him to get ability energy, but that involves other people dying, and that is a bit sketchy for a lot of things. So either this ability energy needs to get changed, maybe even just one, so it's a turn 3 ability, or some way to get ability energy to Doctor Strange easier. And that could be easily fixed through, you know, new character kits and things like that. So I won't go too deep into that. His passive is quite interesting as well as far as the supernatural stuff goes, because when you get the T4s, not only are you filling the speed bar here, 10% chance to fill ally speed bar if this character has 3 or more supernatural allies when a positive effect is applied, you are also gaining deflex for Doctor Strange, which really adds to his survivability, because typically, you know, I'm not an expert on supernatural either, you typically want to get rid of Doctor Strange, because otherwise he's going to revive other members, and so this T4 really helped keep him alive, and with some base stat reworks, I could definitely see this being a thing. I like this on turn chance to fill the lowest ally speed bar by 30%. Honestly, this needs to be higher. Even with the T4, that's only 30%. That's not good. I think that would need to be bumped to like a guaranteed 100% chance to fill the lowest ally speed bar by 30%, and then we're on to something, and I could see that being snowballed, especially if there's any speed up on this team at all from other characters, and this could be quite nice. As far as the base stats, we've talked about this before, his base stats are not that good. His hit points is very low, and even with the Ghost Rider passive, it's just not as enough. So across the board, all 3 of the older characters will need to see some degree of reworks for base stats, but I'm quite confident that with, you know, what we've seen with Weapon X and with Web Warriors, that we will see a good enough base stat rework to make them viable into content now. And where do I think, I kind of alluded to this a little bit, I think that we're due for a war defense team. I know that's shocking to say, and I want to end this by bringing up my character spreadsheet. So by looking at some of the past characters that we have had released, it's been a while since we've had specifically a war defense team. Now, we had a sort of a war team, which is kind of war offense or war defense in the kind of vein of Weapon X here. Some people have them on defense. Some people use them as a counter to Heroes for Hire on war offense. I've seen them on both ends, to be honest. But as far as war kit characters go, those were the last ones that we saw, and then we saw Shang-Chi, who was added to make the Heroes for Hire a bit more frustrating in the patch before that. So it actually has been some time since we've seen a dedicated war defense team at this point. A lot of people, when Supernatural was a thing, were using them on the offense because of their heavy debuffs. But if there was enough adjustment to the brand new characters, to Morbius as a sort of a drain character who has some support potential because he is a doctor as well, and then Voodoo, you know, who could be just adding more support or more control, being really annoying, you know, I could see this being a super irritating war defense team with Doctor Strange being able to revive people, and who knows what other mechanics could be coming with these new characters, because we know brand new characters can make things super frustrating. Other than Shang-Chi, though, the actual like meat of the Heroes for Hire were well back in like patch 5.3 here, which was in April and May. So we're looking at kind of like 8 months since like the bulk of the Heroes for Hire were released. So 8-9 months. So I could definitely see a new war defense team coming to Marvel Strike Force in the vein of Midnight Suns. Now, as far as a character for Morbius, now I know my head's in the way, I think that he would be a bio character. He should be a bio character. If he's the legendary, you know, he could be bio mystic because the rest of the team is mystic. And as far as wider usability and where else you would use him, that is a little bit of a problem, say for Doom Raid mystic. You know, like Morbius would be the weird one out if he's not a mystic tag, but it's not beyond the scope of possibilities with this company. So I could see them breaking up the team by just giving Morbius bio, and therefore you're not using Morbius in Doom Raid specifically for the Mystic lane. But this could also open up options, to use these characters for Doom Raid Mystic for those of you who may have missed out on New Warriors. So New Warriors currently is not farmable. Whether that be Deathpool, whether that be Cloak or Dagger, as of this video, they're not farmable. So this could be a secondary option for those people who don't have those characters to also use them in Doom Raid Mystic. At the very least, I could see like Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, and Brother Voodoo or Doctor Voodoo being, and possibly Elsa as well, being part of this grouping. You know, maybe you could have Icarus and Cersei as a duo, and then 3 more as part of this with the Midnight Suns. And that would be just because you don't have, some people might not have Cloak and Dagger, or you know, maybe newer players, for example, don't have them, you know, so maybe if they get reworked enough to be viable in this section as an alternative, that would be really nice for some players as well. Let me know in the comments down below, though, what you think that this team could be used for. maybe you're not super thrilled with the idea of a new war defense team coming to the game, especially if it includes a legendary character. This could be a headache for some, but I would hope that at least Morbius would be more viable elsewhere around the game rather than just being strictly a war defense character. You know, Doc Ock, for example, has been used on war defense a lot, but he is more widely viable in the game anyway, so I won't, just because I'm saying war defense now, doesn't mean that Morbius won't be usable in other aspects of the game, so fret not, but do let me know what you think about the rest of the characters and where you think they could be kind of put in. I know it's more Mystic Gear, and this is a problem, especially when we've had such a saturation of Mystic Gear lately with the Eternals, with the new Warriors, and I don't think that people really like the aspect of having more Mystic characters come to the game or having to level up and gear old Mystic characters, but we'll have to wait and see anyways. I expect a strike time or some sort of, you know, confirmation, official confirmation on Friday on the blog post. I just wanted to do this ahead of time to see, A, whether or not I was right, and B, whether or not anything I said in this video was remotely true to what we might get with these characters going forward. So that's the end of this one. I want to thank everyone for coming out to the video, of course, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.